I don't have a cord long
Your
enough.
mother does. Alright. Guess we're started live. Bear with me 1 minute. Guess we're started live. Bear with me 1 minute. Guess we're started live. Bear with me 1 minute.
Can you plug this in over there?
Guess we're started. How long is it? Not gonna be long enough.
Yeah, it'll last.
Are you sure?
It'll last at least the time.
Huh?
It'll last at least the time we need it to.
Okay.
Slouch a little so they can see my hair.
Alright, Isaiah, are you coming on?
Or if he's not on now, he's not gonna be able to answer you.
Now, did I just comment or I shared? No, I shared.
You commented. Well, you did comment, but you might have shared it too.
Right? Isn't that what that?
Yeah, you commented in here.
Yeah, but does that say share?
No.
Oh.
That just means I pinned it to the top.
Oh. Okay, I thought I shared it. Hold on 1 minute. Bear with me.
Yeah, you commented. Technical difficulties.
No. Hold on 1 minute. Bear with me.
Yeah, you commented. Technical difficulties. Alright.
Okay. So, this episode, thank you for coming to see us on Do You Really Know God? Sorry about it. A little out of sorts right now because a lot going on today. Not only work has been hectic, like always, but our family just left to go up to back to Connecticut, so they just left. So, and we gave up our shop cap, who went up with Meme.
Well, first it was Abby's cat, then it was mine
Devin
and
and
Abby
Michaela's.
cat,
Then the shop
and
cap.
Michaela, and it became the shop cat.
Now it's going to Connecticut.
Now
to
it's
be with Meme.
Meme's cat.
So, it's been a kind of hectic day. This episode, we're going to talk about Matthew, the disciple.
Yep. And Matthew, if I'm not mistaken, he was the one that was a tax collector.
He was the tax collector. And he is the most unique of all the disciples. And believe it or not, technically, I could probably do 5-hour-long episodes of Matthew. He is so in-depth. But we're not going to...
Took us, what, 3 years in the Bible study at Rockford to do Matthew?
Yeah. So I'm going to start off with Matthew 6:5. And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their own reward in full.
I like that verse because that basically says that people who are doing things for attention are already getting what they want.
They're getting a reward.
It doesn't matter what they pray for. They already got what they were praying for.
And here's the thing is, when we talk about that is, what he means by you got you got your full reward. That's all you got for reward. Those who pray in private, like you're supposed to, and truly pray to God and talk with God, you're going to get a reward beyond your beliefs in the afterlife.
Well, what I like about it is it's saying those who pray in private get their reward. Those who pray in public and in the synagogues and on the street corner, whatever, they already got. So by their full reward, what it means is what they're looking for.
Yeah.
What they're praying for is not necessarily what they're looking for. They may be looking for that as well.
But they're getting...
The main reason they are praying is to be seen praying.
And I'll read this one because this goes in the same hand. It's Matthew 6:2, which is, so when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their full reward in full. So in other words, if you're doing it for attention, that's your reward. That's all you're getting. If you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart, like if you're going to help people, truly help people,
Yeah.
help them, but don't announce it. Don't tell everybody you helped somebody. And then what you're going to get is the best reward ever, which is way more than you can ever imagine, than any hype will ever give you fame or glory.
Right. Well,
Go ahead.
to the topic a little bit, Matthew. I don't know too much about him, but what I do know is that Matthew was a tax collector, and like we said multiple times on the podcast, tax collectors were the worst person in the world back then days.
Well, to the people.
Yeah,
Well,
to the people.
here's how it goes a little bit. Because the reason why he's a couple of reasons why he's the most unique disciple. One, being a tax collector, it's not a sin, but you are the most hated people by the Jews because you're working for the Romans, collecting tax money from your own people for the Romans. Two, as a tax collector, you're hated by the Romans because you're a Jew.
Right.
So you're hated by both sides of the people. So you gotta think about it. Is a tax collector, you have to be a certain kind of person.
Isaiah's watching, by the way.
Hi, Isaiah. Tax collectors are the most unique type of people because you cannot want to have friends. Like if you like a lot of friends in big circles back then, you could not be a tax collector because even Matthew's own family, from anything of the family, they hated him. They disowned him.
Right.
It is tax collectors.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, Judy. They were like, you got to be a hermit if you're a tax collector. So
Right,
you got to be a unique kind of person.
Right. And, a tax collector back in those days, you think about it now, which this is kind of bad to say, but think about it, they were looked at almost as heroin addicts nowadays.
Yeah.
Because the government doesn't like them.
Your own people don't like you.
Yeah, nobody.
And who you work for didn't like you.
Exactly. And basically, no matter where you go, aside from other heroin addicts,
You would not like.
Exactly.
But here's the other unique thing about Matthew. Matthew was not a sinner.
No.
Matthew was a very quiet to himself person. Matthew was very rich. Matthew was loaded. He had his own house, comfortable, ate very well, had his pets, lived his life, and literally he had everything anybody could ever ask for, including money.
Right.
On top of it, and a lot of people don't know this, Matthew was the only one of the group. He was kind of an atheist. He did not believe in the Bible. He did not read the Bible. He did not even know about the Bible. Well, he knew about it because his parents tried to teach him, but
Right.
he did not follow the Bible. He did not read the Bible. He was the only disciple that followed Jesus that did not know anything about David and Goliath. Didn't know anything about Moses and Abraham, and he didn't know any of the verses or anything of the Bible. So it makes him more unique about that because the way it went down, Jesus handpicked who he wanted to follow him. And he handpicked each disciple. And he literally walked up to Matthew, because Matthew was following Simon at the time, because Simon owed a lot of taxes. So Matthew was following Simon, trying to see what he's doing, or trying to collect tax money, whatever. And that's when he started seeing some of the miracles of Jesus. And he's seen some of the miracles, and he's like, wow, this is insane. When he was actually in working. Now, how they had it set up back then, they had a little building with gates for the tax collectors.
Mm-hmm.
And they were inside the building, and they had Roman guards on each side to protect him.
Yeah.
Because he had his own security, because the Jewish people
trying
wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
And obviously, Caesar wanted his money, so even though he hated Matthew and the tax collectors because they're Jewish, he needed to protect them so he could get his money.
Right.
So, with that being said, Jesus actually walked up to the tax window that he's working at, and said, Matthew, son of, I don't remember Matthew's father's name because they always said, called you son of whatever your father
Right.
was. And he walked up to me.
We'll say Bobby.
Yeah, walked up to me and said, Matthew, son of, he goes, follow me. And that's all Jesus really did with his disciples. He said, follow me. And Matthew kind of, how the story goes, kind of did a look around and was like, you talking to me? Why are you talking to me, holy man? Right. I'm not even holy. I don't even believe in you. And Jesus is like, yeah, you. And Matthew sat there, thought about it a minute, and walked out and then looked at, he had one God, I can't remember the God's name, but there's one God that he was assigned to him for well over 10 years. So, like anything else, this one God was assigned to you for so long, you're going to have like a little bit of a bond or a connection with him. Even though one was Roman and you're Jewish. He actually came out of the thing, he looked at the God, he handed the God his house keys and said, please find a home for my dog, sell my house, do whatever you want with the money, and take all my money that I have and give it to my parents. And God is like, are you kidding me? He goes, no, I'm serious. And the God is like, so you're going to give up everything you have to follow the stranger? And Matthew said, yes. And the God even asked him, why are you doing this? And Matthew told him, I don't know. I feel I have to. So Matthew followed Jesus. So he's like one of the most unique ones because most of the other disciples were like lower to middle class people.
Right.
And they were big sinners. They were all sinners, but they were not like rich people, so they didn't really give nothing up to follow Jesus.
They didn't have nothing.
Matthew, literally, being an atheist, gave up all his wealth, his house, and everything he owned and had, and the comfort lifestyle. You figure he went home every night. He's in a comfy house, nice and comfy, had all the comforts of home for back then, had all the food he could possibly want. He gave that up to go live in tents and scrounge for food. And gave up his money.
Yeah.
Right there tells you something about Jesus. So Matthew goes on to follow Jesus. The other thing that made it unique about the whole situation about Jesus asking Matthew, because most of his disciples that followed him.
Judy says Alphaeus is Matthew's father.
Thank you, Judy. That's it. Matthew of Alphaeus. The other thing is, Matthew being a tax collector, most of the other disciples, Matthew hunted down for taxes. Most of them hated Matthew and would rather kill him.
And now you're his bunkmate.
Now you got to walk with him. Now, I mean, it's just so fascinating. I've read so much on Matthew. There's a reason why Jesus picked Matthew. And a lot of people, like I've talked to a lot of religious people, and there's some of them like, we don't understand why he picked Matthew as one of his disciples, because he wasn't a real big sinner, but he is hated amongst his people. And hated amongst Romans.
If I had to put my 2 cents in from my understanding, which is not very much of the Bible, I've admitted that multiple times in this podcast. I do not know much about the Bible. I'm one of those people where I try to read the Bible, but it's just, I'm not a reader. It bores me. And I can't keep track of it either. Because, let's be honest, the Bible kind of goes all those different places. But I think Jesus was just trying to make a point.
Well,
and make Matthew, as someone who knows the feeling of everyone hating you, Matthew now has that power to possibly help those who feel hated. And be like, bro, I was in your situation one time, and I still found the love of God. And
maybe. That's a good possibility. I think 2 of the reasons why he did it, one is he wanted to prove that you can take an atheist and make him a holy.
Yeah,
There's one point.
Yeah. Like I said, like an example kind of.
Point number 2. You know anything about Matthew? Because Matthew wrote other books other than the Bible book.
Right.
Okay. Matthew.
He wrote Proverbs too, didn't he?
Yeah. No. No. I don't think so.
Baby, who wrote Proverbs? I think she's sleeping.
Oh. Yeah, I know. She's faking. She don't know.
No, I know, but
It wasn't Matthew, was it? No, it wasn't Matthew. I didn't think so.
I'm wrong.
I think it was John. But anyways, Matthew, he wrote other books besides
Right.
the Bible books that he wrote. But the thing about Matthew is, if you watch The Chosen, me and Isaiah was talking about it today.
Yeah. It made me look bad.
On The Chosen, they how they have Matthew played as a person is how I imagine Matthew in my head.
Matthew needed to be taught about being kind and what being a good person was.
Yes. And Matthew, I picture as a person, like somebody who has Asperger's disease. Because he had, like,
the book subscription in the Proverbs of Solomon is not to say
Solomon.
that it is whole or even individual proverbs should be credited to King Solomon.
Solomon, that's right.
Well, she says, what a better example.
Scholarly examination discloses that it contains 7 collections of wisdom materials.
What books did Matthew write? That's what we're trying to figure out.
Matthew. He only wrote Book of Matthew in the Bible.
Did he?
Yes, but
I thought you said he wrote other books.
not in the Bible, non-Bible.
I got you.
He wrote other books like other things,
Right,
whatever. Not about Jesus.
So, gospel, according to Matthew, first of the 4 New Testament gospels, narratives recounting the life and death of Jesus Christ, and with the gospels according to Mark and Luke, one of the 3 so-called synoptic gospels, those presenting the common view.
Yeah, Matthew was, out of the 4 books, wrote when Matthew, John, there's Matthew, John, Luke, and there's one more. Matthew was the longest. Matthew was also the most in-depth book about Jesus' life.
Right.
Where the others gave like little instances where Matthew got in-depth about what Jesus did.
Right.
But I picture
kind of gave an overview. He was like, "No, this is exactly what happened."
Where I picture, like on The Chosen, they made the character for Matthew the way he is. If you ever watch The Chosen, he acts like somebody who has like Asperger's or something, because he's very particular, very smart. He's very like everything he does. He takes a note. You watch him like in the show. Everything that Jesus does, he's walking behind Jesus, just taking notes. Just writing down notes and writing down your notes. And if you research Matthew and the other books that he has out there, besides the gospel books, he's very in depth on all his writings.
Right.
So another reason why I think Jesus picked him is because he's in depth writing. Because this way here, Matthew would capture everything as Jesus wants it captured.
Yeah.
It's also known that Matthew actually, like, Jesus would literally every now and then wake Matthew up early in the morning, like 4 in the morning, and they'd go off, disappear. When the other disciples would wake up, they'd be gone because they disappear, because Jesus would sit there with Matthew and teach him scripture, and so he could learn the Old Bible, Old Testament, but also teach him what he wanted out there, what he wants. Right. And he would help teach Matthew what he wants out of people. So Matthew would write it down, like all these sayings, like I just read the 2. Those were right from Jesus. And Jesus also wanted to prove with Matthew, I believe, because Jesus says it is easier to get a camel through the eye of a needle than for the rich to get into heaven. Yeah. Jesus wanted to prove the reason why. Matthew gave up his riches. He gave up his wealth to go live as a peasant on a road in tents.
Right.
Now that guarantees Matthew a ticket into heaven. There was another incident before Matthew actually came aboard of this rich guy who went up to Jesus and said, "Hey, I want to follow you and I want to get in heaven." And Jesus said, "Okay, give away all your land, and give away all your money, and then come follow me. And they said, well, wait, I'm not doing that. What do you mean? And he's like, well, in order to follow me, you must give up everything that you have.
Right.
And they're like, well, we worked hard to get rich. He's like, okay, well then go be with your money. And you're not getting into heaven.
If that's what you're worried about, there's the door, bro.
And so he's proven with Matthew that somebody of riches can walk away from their riches to follow him. And